welcome Jason Campbell because he's talking about the backup quarterback that's going to be in Washington, and also the NFL draft and looking around the league of what's going on. But Tony, you got the mic first to talk about this NFL owners meeting that just took place in Arizona. And this Commanders team has bidders putting in big dollars. $6 billion, Tony, is on the table for the Commanders.
Well, is this the same Jason as one of the bidders for the team? Is that the same guy we're speaking with now?
Hey, I wouldn't mind getting 1% of that.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Just glad to be on. It's a busy season. College football, NFL. Team people changing places and faces. So
NCAA tournament taking place, and you're probably wondering why I've got this ball cap on. I'm representing my alma mater, Fairmont State University.
If they were that bad, you wouldn't have to wear the cap.
Since basketball is going on, Tony, I had to represent NCAA, but it's a lot of football going on. And Tony, you and Jason want to hit you right off. It's been two bidders it's been two bidders that have bidded for this Commanders team at $6 billion is what it's going for. Talk about just the sale of this team, if it's going to happen before the season, the draft comes about. What's your take on that, Tony and Jason?
Well, you know what I look at it, this owners meeting probably was a big part of it for them to make the final decision they're really going to do this. Until that point, you have to think about it. They did not want to sell the team if they didn't have to. In that owners meeting, something was said to let them know they have to. To have this many bidders, it's a good thing to have because this team is not a long ways from the playoffs, but they still have some pieces they have to get. And Jason, as you know, one of them is the quarterback. But if you look around the league, there's been a lot of changes. But look at selling this team. I don't know what it'll mean or what it will be, but at the same time, with this team being owned by someone else, it may make a big difference. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think it makes a big difference. Like I said, everything always flows from the top. That's at any company. If you look at the boss and how things are run and how things are handled, you usually see it flow downhill and you see the fruits of your labor. So I definitely think something was said in the owners meeting where they realized that, hey, this team has to be sold because there is a vote that has to go out amongst the owners, and it has to be a certain amount that says, we agree with you having to sell the team, or you have to sell the team because, in a situation like this, Tony and Donna, if they didn't want that team sold, we wouldn't even be at this point because this would have already got handled way before this time. I think it's something that they want to make a splash before the NFL draft because think about it, it's going to make a lot of headlines. It's going to make a lot of news. And with this being a $6 billion offer, which is be the richest in the history of selling any franchise, it just goes to show you like how important being in Washington, D.C. is because over the last couple of years, Washington has not, been those Super Bowl teams, of the past. You made some playoffs in a couple of those years, but the glory days was in the 80s and some of the early 90s. And you think about like that tradition that still lives on throughout this fan base. It just goes to show you get the right leadership in there amongst the owners. And then you will have some of the right coaches that want to come through. It may not be a revolving door, because it's going to take someone that understands patience.
But, Donna, I want to ask you this. And if you think in that owners meeting, you see what the Washington team did. I think all the owners looked at the product that they put out there this year and it was not very good at a lot of times. It ended up being good. The Super Bowl was good and everything. But at the same time, if you think about the total season, everyone that I talked to said, well, it's just they didn't think it was good football. They're making a lot of moves. And if you look at Washington has been the same as other teams, they went for that quarterback position first because had this team had a quarterback, if they had Jason, you guys could have gone to the Super Bowl last year. But at the same time, they made the move. But I'm looking around the league, and I think down at everyone have to improve because the product was not what it should be this year to me.
Yeah, Tony, but let's go back to that the people that are bidding for this Commanders team. You talk about Josh Harris's team right there. He's in there with Mitch Rails and Magic Johnson, and they seem like they're the front runner only because you think about the experience they have trying to buy Denver last year. And all of these people, Tony, have deep pockets, but it's going to come down who Dan Snyder wants to sell this team to. Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z are not in the conversation, but there's been a little tension as far as Dan Snyder and Basil. But when you look at the experience as far as Magic Johnson, not even looking at him as the basketball player and all the championships, but he's a great businessman. You think about all the entities that he has, the Starbucks, the movie theaters, the other entities that he has. And then you look at John Harris, owner of NBA Philadelphia 76er, the NFL New Jersey Devils, and his list, and then Rails, he's involved in the mix and all the business. But then you look at the Canada, Steve, I'm not even going to butcher his last name because it's a long one. That means that he's got big ducats and everything.
It's about long as his money.
Yeah, all money. But when you look at all of these people, and then other people are throwing their names into the conversation also. So you're, by the end of the day, the end of the time when it comes up to the draft, you're going to have a lot of people. But who is most appealing to you two as far as who should buy this team between the John Harris group, as far as the Canada guy and the Canadian guy, and then even Jay-Z and Bezos, and then other front runners? But those are the three people that we know right now. Who is most appealing to you all that would probably come in and be a good owner for this Commanders team?
I don't know how Jason feel, but you also did not mention Magic had a lot of other business, but he also been ownership with the Lakers, the ownership with the Dodgers now. He knows a little bit about this, and that I think that's appealing to me. I don't know about Jason. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's very appealing to me. I think having a minority ownership in there is the key. You talking about I don't know if we have any in the NFL. And so you talk about a guy like who's more appealing than Magic Johnson. I understand Jay-Z is a big name as well, but he's going in with Bezos. But you talk about Magic, like you said, you just mentioned with the Dodgers. Look what the Dodgers have been doing over the last couple of years. He's been involved with the Lakers for years. Starbucks, movie theaters. He has so many resources and connects. So he understands the format of what it takes to be successful in professional sports. And I just think that would mean so much more to the NFL, because the reason the owners didn't want Dan to sell the team was because it wasn't so much the wins and the losses. They looked at the stadium, and if you look at that stadium, you're not even having that many fans there. And what that affects everybody else across, because you're talking about TV dollars, you're talking about merchandise and different things. So more so because Washington has really good players. They have some players, but when you look in the stands, every time people come to play in DC, it's more visitor fans than it were our own fans. And then the stadium's half full. So that just means they see it spiraling downhill. They don't want that to be part of their product in the NFL, because the owners can say what they want. It does mean something. That's why the Raiders moved out of Oakland to Vegas, because the stadium wasn't getting filled, and because the stadium wasn't up to date, it wasn't attractive. And the owners want someone that's going to put them in a position to have stadiums, have merchandise, have money flowing in that's very, very attractive. And putting Magic Johnson in that ownership with the Harris Group makes everything attractive for this job. For this ownership.
Let me throw out to you some numbers, Tony and Jason. Magic Johnson Enterprise, 125 Starbucks stores, 31 Burger Kings, 24-hour fitness and insurance company, and that list goes on. But let's talk about when they sold the Dodgers also. Magic put up $50 million of his own money. Not for sure how much he's throwing into the pot this time around. But when they bought the Dodgers, it was worth $2 billion that they put up. Now the Dodgers is worth $5.24 billion. That says a lot as far as that group. And when I told you about Harris and what he owns, the 76ers, the Devils, and that list goes on. And then also his partner, Rails, owns a lot of things. So like you said, look like they're more appealing. And because they lost out last year to Denver in trying to be at that team, the NFL really wants this group in. Now, how it all plays out, Tony, I don't know.
But it has to, because Donna, one thing about it, and just what Jason was saying, this team has a history. This team was one of the top teams for 20 years in the NFL. This team was one of the last teams to get an African-American on their team. Now they could be the first team to have a minority ownership. That's important right now. The league is changing. And right now they got to get these things out, because that wasn't nothing but a miscue and something that everyone had to listen to the year. Jason said, I never, the whole time I played there, whole time Jason played there, we didn't have empty stands. I know you have the pandemic and everything, but the thing that's really important now is just not Washington. So if you look and you go back to that ownership meeting, Washington is just another team. You are going to see other teams sold, moved, or either improved. And they have to do that because one thing about it, when you have more people looking at hockey than you do at football, you got a problem.
Yeah.
And, I'm pretty good at hockey too, Jason, if you want some of this.
Tony, please do not throw no jokes
Hey,
around.
I can't even skate.
Tony, you can have the hockey. Just meet me on the basketball court. Just meet me on the basketball court.
Hey, you better ask Donna how
Jason, he don't want Jason, he don't want to get on the basketball court with
you ever heard of the Long Rangers? Right. That's what they call me.
Hey, I'm going to say
speaking about the Long Rangers, let's put to bed this ownership situation. And let's talk about the Commanders' free agency and what they've done so far. And when you think about who they brought on board already, offensive line was one of the key things that I looked at. And so they brought in two-time Super Bowl champion Maurice Kemp from Kansas City because they lost Cam Sims to the Raiders. They brought an offensive lineman from the Chiefs, Andrew Wiley, and then the ex-Giant center offensive line, Nick Gates, brought in a center, back to center Talent Lawson. But Jason, they brought in a quarterback from the Browns, Jacoby Brissett. Talk a little bit about him. And do you like that move? Do you like him? Right now, everybody's saying he's the backup, but right now that's wide open. I remember Russell Wilson, Tony, and you recall, both of you all recall, Russell Wilson, a rookie, goes into Seattle. He was supposed to be the backup. They had just signed the quarterback from Green Bay. He's supposed to be the starter, signed a big contract, and Russell Wilson ends up being the starting quarterback. Could be the same thing in Washington. They like what they've got in these two quarterbacks. But talk about Jacoby.
Well, let's just go back to Howell too. Howell come out of college the year before. Everyone had him ranked up there pretty high. He didn't have the same senior season he had his junior year, but at the same time, everyone likes his big arm and he's a young quarterback. One thing about Jacoby is such a really good person. His attitude is always in the right place. He's a team guy, and I think that's why Washington looked at this and said, you know what, here the enemy, I want to bring in a veteran that's not going to be confrontational in the meeting rooms, not going to be confrontational with teammates, but someone that can support our young quarterback. But if called upon, if our young quarterback can't pick up the system fast enough, or we don't see him just being able to get this team where we need to go right now, we have a guy that's proven in the NFL, a guy that's been through some change. He understands, and that he can step right in for us and fill that gap until we feel like our young guy is ready to start to perform. And Jacoby's okay with that because he's been in that position. And you think about what he went through when he was in Cleveland with all the Deshaun Watson talk and everything, and he had to go out there and help carry this team for 11 games before Deshaun got the job, and all his teammates rave about, how he handled himself before then, even during the process, because Deshaun wasn't really suspended after they got Jacoby. Jacoby was there, but then Deshaun got suspended during training camp. So he had to mentally start preparing himself during OTAs, during mini camps to say, okay, it's more than likely this guy's going to be suspended, but I don't know for how long. So he understands all the change. And I think once he instantly walks into this locker room, I think guys will look at him with instant respect. Even Sam Howell will look at him with instant respect, and then he will be able to piggyback because why? Jacoby's been around Tom Brady. He was there for years. He learned a lot. So why, if I'm Sam, why wouldn't I be picking his brain about what were some of the things that Tom did? Because Tom wasn't a very big athlete, but he was really good in the pocket. He was really good with precision. How do I get to that level? Jacoby's not a real big athlete. He can run, but he's a precision passer. So same thing with Sam. Sam can run a little bit, but everyone talks about his arm. You can have arm talent, but can you be a precision passer? And I think there's so much that he can learn from this, especially with area enemy just coming from with Mahomes. But everyone got to respect now. Sam is not going to be Mahomes. He has to be Sam. And, Mahomes can get away with making a lot of different acrobatic passes and all of that because he's comfortable in the system. Sam got to get comfortable in the system.
Hey, Tony, do you like what the Commanders have done so far in free agency, knowing that Eric Bieniemy, do you like the stamp that he's putting on this team right now? I mean, he got rid of the offensive line coach also recently, so therefore they're looking at that. But when you look at the two offensive linemen that they've got, as far as the wide receiver. How do you see this team right now and what they're doing?
I think that they filled a lot of holes when they did that. Offensive line was one of the places where they had injuries, but at the same time they did not have a lot of the talent that they needed as well. Anytime you can get two offensive line that could be starters for you, you've already improved. You got a defense that's shown that they could be one of the best, and all they had to do continue to get better, but continue to get in shape. Then you have a defensive backfield that you got an all-pro corner. You need a lockdown corner. You need someone like that. But they have addressed every situation that they needed to address. But at the same time, I think the biggest one was the quarterback. And I think having that quarterback, yes, I think Jacoby, everywhere he's gone, he's been successful. And as Jason said, he's fit right in. He's been the person who's been there. I think that he's not coming in here to back him up. I think he's coming in here to win a job. You have to think, Bieniemy has been in the league a long time, been on Super Bowl team. He sees quarterbacks for what they are and what they can do for the franchise. He knows this guy can play. He knows this guy can help him. And he's not looking at this guy coming in and being there if they need him. He's looking for this guy to come in and compete to be the starter.
Well, they said that Coach Rivera said that Howard has as far as is not saying that he's got the job right now. He's just going in as far as the guy that has stepped in to be in that role right now. But they're going to leave this wide open as far as who beats out who right there. So
they basically saying that it's Sam's job to lose.
Yeah.
You know,
so who do you like between the two? Who, if you were the coach right now, both you, Tony, and Jason, and you're looking at both of these quarterbacks and what they've done so far, because Jacoby, you look at what he's done with Cleveland and with the Dolphins, he was with the Dolphins. But if you were the offensive coordinator right now and you're looking at these two quarterbacks right now on paper and a little bit of them playing in the NFL, who would you pick right now? Who do you think is the front runner? I'm putting y'all on the spot.
Well, you know what? I'll jump on it first. I would look at just like you look at anything else. Howell has not even had a full year of playing in the league. Once you're in the league, and Jason will tell you this when he give you his answer, once you give coordinators a year to study you, they find every weakness you got. Now, Jacoby been in the league for a while. Everybody know his strengths and weaknesses. He never got the true opportunity to be the man. So I like Jacoby the most. I think that he's going to be good. Even as Howell come in and have a decent year, he's not going to have that same year the next year. They call it sophomore jitters, but all it is league figured out. So, you know, that's what's happening there. And you know that, Jason, when you came in, you had to do a little bit here and there, but you have to learn. So right now, to me, Jacoby.
You know, Shaft has spoken. Hey, Shaft has spoken. Now, you asking me who's the better quarterback right now? 100% that's Jacoby at this standpoint. But Sam Howell only played in one game, so he's been a starter for one game. So you drafted this young kid. So because he's a draft pick and not your guy that you went out and got in free agency, I think you owe it to him first. The season is starting off to say, "Hey, Sam, we're gonna let you play a few games to see what you really have," because we don't know. We saw you play the Dallas game. You played pretty good. You played decent, and you helped lead us to a victory. So I need to see more of you. I can't see more of you if you're standing over here with me with a clipboard in your hand. So I can't make a decision on what we need to be doing moving forward. So I would just say, yes, Jacoby's the better quarterback. But if you want to see what you have to give this young kid an opportunity first to see what he can do before you actually turn to Jacoby. Because at the same time, we've seen Jacoby play over a period of time, but he's also been moved around the last couple of years to different teams. So that means you're not getting Jacoby to come here to be your long-term solution. You're just getting him to come here to help fix a short-term problem or help a young quarterback groom so that he can become your long-term quarterback. So if you're going to do that, then you have to let Sam, yes, coach going to say, it's going to be a competition because why? You want your young quarterback to feel pushed. You don't want him to get comfortable like he's already arrived and he's only started one game. So in his mind, he wants Sam to think that Jacoby's coming here pushing him, but they know in that room on that board, those plays are designed for Sam, and it's his job to lose. And if he starts showing that he can't handle it, that's why they got Jacoby there for insurance.
Yeah,
well,
before you throw.
I
before
don't
you
mean
throw
to cut
Sam
you
in the
off.
fire.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to ask you this. You think about it. That's a great analogy that you just put out there, Jason. But think about it. You got a new ownership. You got a new offensive coordinator. And you got a coach that if he doesn't win this year could be in trouble.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to say we owe Sam anything. I think he's going to say, I'm putting the best man out there to keep my job. And those owners are going to be looking too. How do you evaluate that? And they may look at it, Jacoby, if he can win for them now, that makes it look good. Now, they may look at Sam for the future, but I'm thinking right now with the situation the way it is, the coach can't afford to experiment this year. He got to bring it. So, you got to take all that in consideration.
Right. But, Tony, I still think that, like Jason said, that you've got to find out what you got in Sam, because it could be a situation. You only got 2 quarterbacks in camp right now going into this season, and they may get one through the draft. But I think you still got to find out what you got in Sam. And I still think it comes down to having a wide open quarterback tryout, and whoever beats whoever out, that's who's supposed to be in there. But speaking of that, Tony, let's go right to the NFL draft that's coming up later on in April. And the Commanders, I still think that they need some more offensive linemen, but also they need a cornerback, because you think about Kendall Fuller, he's at the end of his contract year. And so I think that you've got to replace cornerback position. And also, you've got to replace the linebacker, because you lost Colt Hogan to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So look at this. And you and Jason can give me your mock draft and who you think should be in there. We're just going to play around with a little bit. The Commanders have the 16th pick in the first round. And should they move up? Should they move down? Should they stay there? Who should they pick right now? And then they've got the second round, 47 pick. Third round, 97 compensation pick. Fourth round, 118. Fifth pick, 150, and the sixth pick, 193. But you're the general manager right now. First round pick 16. How do you use that?
I'm getting a lockdown corner. I got people up front that can rush that passer.
Jason, always thinking on the defensive side.
I got a lockdown corner. Second round, I'm getting a linebacker that's a stud in the middle that's going to bust it up, but at the same time, he can run and get the job done. Third round, I'm going to get an offensive lineman, because right there, that third round is the best. You're going to get an offensive lineman maybe as good as the first rounder. That's my first 3 picks, and then I'm going to pick what hotel I'm staying at the Super Bowl.
Hey, Jason, you see Tony always talk about the defense side of the ball. You're pretty much set. It's the offensive side.
I'm like the World Series. I call it like I see it.
You know what? I expect that from Tony to go defense.
You expect that from the white beard.
Right. I'm going to go a little something that we probably didn't even think about. Washington might be trading that 16th pick and try to go get the guy up the street up 95 in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson.
Jason, that ain't gonna happen.
I like to see
because
that.
Deshaun Watson was traded to Cleveland, and who they had that Jacoby. So they brought Jacoby to Washington, because if Lamar Jackson come to Washington, they got somebody that's already understand all the noise and hype.
And you made Tony set up on that one.
So that could still happen. Everybody keeps talking about Washington's not in it for Lamar.
Well, Mark Mayhew said that that's not going to happen. He said they're not even looking at Lamar, so you can just get that out of your mind. That's what he said at the.
But they're poker players, though. They're not going to show their hand too early, because that's going to involve other teams. So it's a possibility.
Situations too. Now think about it. He's in his 4th, 5th year. He's starting to have injuries. He's one play away from being out, and they're looking at, do we want to drop all this money on him in this situation? And he doesn't last. It's just like right now. You take a look at what happened to Brady last year. 2 or 3 people gone. He wasn't even the same quarterback. Yeah. So what you're looking at, Jackson is great for the moment, but is he great for the future?
Okay,
I like that. But now my draft pick,
quarterback.
Right, my draft pick. Then I'm gonna go tight end.
What?
I'm gonna tell you, there's some really good tight ends in this draft. You look at Georgia. Georgia got 2 of them, and if you think about utilizing a tight end in Kansas City's offense, what Eric the Enemy has been around his last 9 years.
True that.
In Kansas City with Travis Kelce, understanding what a tight end brings to that offense, Like they didn't even have Tyreek Hill last year, and Kelsey still went off. So I think he's going to look in the draft and say, I need that hybrid player on my offense because I got some outside players. I got some inside receiver. I need a tight end that can utilize the field to take attention off some of my outside guys that people just don't say, oh, he's a blocker or he's just a first down play action pass catcher, but someone they got to account for first, second, and third down because he's a valuable part of the offense. And this offense would not flow if they don't have a solid tight end. So I'm going with tight end at 16.
Hey, Jason, but don't they have their tight ends already set because they drafted 2 young tight ends last year? Logan Thomas, not for sure with his injuries, but I'm not going to agree with you or Tony because I'm looking at the offensive line, and you spoke about Georgia, and that's the tight end. They've got a nice offensive lineman as far as Jones on there, and then you look at Tennessee with Darren Wright, some offensive lineman that's going to be with the Commanders. And I agree with you, Tony. They need the corner, but I got to have that offensive lineman to help out the young quarterbacks. And you going tight end, Jason? They already got tight end.
Your tight end can help the offensive lineman because when he needs to stay in pass protection, he can be that. He can be that extra guy to stay in pass protection. So that's the one thing about a tight end. He could be utilized in both. He can be utilized in the passing aspect. He can be utilized in the blocking aspect. So you kind of get a 2-for-1. So that's why I say I would go tight end because I can go out and pick up some linemen this offseason. I can go out and get some guys later in the draft that has developed into a really, really good offensive lineman. But I need a guy right now that can step into this offense. Like I said, Logan Thomas was a quarterback that was transferred to a tight end. I'm talking about a guy that played, and he's had some injuries lately, and we all know what injuries.
You talking about a Kelsey. You talking about a Kelsey.
Right. I'm talking about going and get you a Kelsey, because that's going to change the game.
100% right. That's why you have to look for him, Donna, because they did get 2 new ones and everything, but think about it, they were hurt this year. And when Logan went out, that kind of offense even went down further. So, I kind of like that, Jason, what you said. I had thought about a tight end, but when you talk about offensive linemen first round, Donna, they had to be no miss, no doubt about it. You look at Sheriff. He was good when he was there, but he wasn't the greatest. He went to the Pro Bowl, but he wasn't like some of them.
And he had Jacksonville this year, Tony.
He did really.
And did not get hurt.
You look, everybody they let go helped the team that they were going to. So I mean, maybe they
that's always been the case.
Thought process.
Well, Tony, I got you and Jason on. Tony said cornerback. Jason said tight end. I said offensive lineman. We're going to have a mock draft coming up with a friend that I know is supposed to be the guru of mock drafts. But I'm going to keep this on paper to see who was right at the end of it. So let's talk. We almost out of time. Let's talk about the Lamar Jackson. He's saying that, look, I want to be traded from the Ravens. Can that relationship be mended now, being that he wants to be traded? Not that they may trade him, but, they've been dangling him all last season as far as to get that contract signed. What does this mean for the Ravens and Lamar Jackson at this stage? And he's not coming to Washington, Jason, no matter what you say.
The thing about it, and Jason can tell you this even more, what they're looking at right now is he had great years, but his is any moment, and he's looking the same way. That's why he wants to get paid. He could get hurt in training camp or anything else. So he gonna raise a ruckus because he is one or two of the best quarterbacks probably in the league. But at the same time, both of those quarterbacks are being hurt. But speaking of cleaning it up, and you're going to keep something on file, you never talked about the Super Bowl where we made the bet.
Here we go again. Here we go.
Now you're going to talk about fight. Get that file out for our next podcast.
That Super Bowl is over. I don't know why you keep bringing that up, but when you win every once in a while, you got to keep bringing that up.
That's
I
right.
want Jason to talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson. I'm going to pat yourself on the back. You deserve it this time, but Jason, he always bringing up old news. But Jason, talk a little about Lamar, because I know that you see possibly them playing cat and mouse with saying that they're not going to bring him here. But as Tony said, he's been injured a lot and whatever. But does that make teams shy away from him? And also, how is that relationship damaged, being that now he's saying, I want to be traded? Is he playing cat and mouse also?
It's dealing with more off the field than on the field. And what I mean by that is everyone across the league know Lamar can play. And if you're Atlanta Falcons, you're going to tell me you don't want Lamar Jackson? Of course you want Lamar Jackson. You're in an African-American city. and it's going to fill the stands, and he'd be the second of Vic coming through Atlanta. So, you can say all of that and say you're not interested, but good and well, if there was a way that you could work that out, you would bring Lamar to Atlanta. There's other teams that in the same situation, but they're not going to come out and say it because this is going to the fact because Lamar doesn't have an agent. And what they don't want to do, no one is saying it, but what's happening is if Lamar goes out and work a contract out without an agent and he gets what he wants and all the guaranteed money, what do you think the owners are thinking? It's going to open the floodgates up to every player now saying they don't need agents, and that they can negotiate with the teams to get the money that they want. And now that's going to cause a lot of problems because it's going to ruin personal relationships. This thing is getting personal between Lamar and Baltimore right now because there's no in-between person. There's no shield person for Lamar. And what's happening is, since it's going public, as soon as Harbaugh got ready to talk yesterday, Lamar put his tweet out. Somebody on the inside is pitching something to Lamar saying, hey, coach is about to go on and say this. You might want to say something now. So someone on the inside is giving information to Lamar. And then because the coach is saying one thing, the owner saying one thing, and then Lamar saying another thing. So there is some tension. That's why I say you do need an agent, because if Lamar got over $200 million guaranteed, that $2.5 million that he'll pay his agent over 4 to 5 years, he won't even miss it because he won't even see it, because you're making so much money. But you also get a chance to protect yourself. You don't look like the person that's trying to negotiate in public. Now your agent is that person that's the shield. Everyone's looking at your agent. And, but this is the thing that I tell everybody. It has nothing to do with his talent. This is all about, they don't want Lamar get a contract done without an agent with that type of money because it's going to open up the floodgates to every other player thinking they can do that. That's why we're in the situation we're in now, because Cleveland gave Deshaun Watson a $230 million guaranteed contract. And now everybody thinks they're supposed to get what Deshaun got because they think that's how it's supposed to operate. No, Cleveland just did something out of the norm. But now it's open, and the owners are not happy about it because now you're in this situation. Lamar thinks he's supposed to get that fully guaranteed contract. Oh, you look at his stats versus Deshaun. He said, I have better stats.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been consistent. So if he got that, why I'm not getting that? Because you're in different ownerships. You're in two different things. Cleveland made a mistake of doing that. Now everybody else is having to deal with the everything come afterwards.
The fallout after that. Well, Tony, you know something about being the snitch, and you got the last word, snitch, as far as that. Because Lamar, like Jason just said, he got somebody in there that's kind of like in his ear saying, hey, owner is your Harbaugh is getting ready to say this. Mm-hmm. Tony knows a little bit about the snitch part.
Well, for everyone listening to this, I was a uniform inspector for 28 years, and my own kids called me a snitch, so I don't have a problem with that because I always told the truth. Looking at this, Lamar is just like the organization, and I tell you why I feel that way. I remember I played in the league 14 years. For the first 10 or 12, I had an agent. I remember I got traded to a team, and the team doubled my contract right away, and I looked back, and my agent and the general manager was shaking hands because they realized they had just got me. So from that time on, I negotiated my own contract. That's the way I like to see the league do it anyway, because the contracts are one-sided anyway. We can't get out, but they can. So at the same time, somebody may be telling Lamar, but he's also thinking for himself. He knows how he feels when he go home at night. He knows how the injuries are still there that people may not know about. He knows that any one day that this could happen to him. He don't want to lose the opportunity. This may be the last big contract he get. At the same time, I want to ask Jason, do you think Deshaun was worth the money that they gave him? Take everything, forget the off the field, forget everything. Was he worth that talent? If he was worth it, then Lamar is worth it now.
All right, and that's the thing, because I think even with Deshaun, when he got that contract, let's be honest, they never should have gave him that $230 million contract.
That's exactly the way I feel.
Because he set out an entire year. And even before that, he just signed that contract where he got like $130 million guarantee, and he still had 3 to 4 years left on that deal. So I just don't understand how come Cleveland just didn't take over that deal and give Houston more picks and just take over that deal. But to go and give him $230 million, I didn't think they should have done that because
Well,
now
they gave Baker Mayfield the keys to the stadium.
But he's been, yeah, exactly, Tony.
Yeah, so that
he left with him.
Right. So I really think this deal would have been done already had that not happened. Because, be honest, how can you blame Lamar if you're basing it off face value? My value is more.
Exactly.
You know, but Baltimore is saying, well, we won with Flacco when Tom Brady and Peyton Manning was in our division. We won with what's the guy that came in 2000 and led them to the championship. So they're saying, oh, we had winning teams. We won off great defense. We're not willing to do what Cleveland did. We're not selling off our whole franchise for one person. Cleveland sold off their whole franchise pretty much for one person. They're saying we're not doing that. We're not desperate like that. So now you got a wall with Baltimore standing firm on what they believe in. And then you got over here Lamar standing firm on what he believes in, because he's looking at saying, okay, every year we do contracts, we're basing it off your peers. Yeah. So if the contract is based off my peer, that guy over there got 230. I was the MVP of the league. And you telling me I can't get 230? So, exactly. You know, close. That's where we're at now.
But the thing about that is the ownership, I got to agree with them a little bit in Baltimore, because they do need a lot of other pieces on that team, because without Lamar, they don't even win that many games. And even with him, they struggle on the offensive side of the ball, the running back position, some of the other key positions that they needed filled. So what happens with teams is when they mortgage the team, and the Commanders are guilty of that too, on one player, and Carson Wentz, they never should have signed him last year either. When you mortgage the team, when you know you need so many other pieces on this team, this is what happens. Now, do I say that Lamar doesn't have the right to ask for that? Yes, he does. And the thing about it is they're giving it to other people, and now other people, so why not him? But still, they, you know, you got to be smart organizational wise. Are you willing to give that person that much money and then not fill some other key positions in order to win?
Well, Baltimore also looking at this, Tony and Donna. Cincinnati is considered one of the top 3 teams in the NFL. Yeah. They almost beat Cincinnati in the playoffs last year with their backup quarterback.
Exactly.
So they're looking at it like, okay, we're not just a quarterback away, because we almost won that game. If we don't give up a 99-yard fumble for a touchdown, we beat Cincinnati in the playoffs. So they're looking at it like, do we really want to give up everything for Lamar? But then we can't stand firm on what we've been building for 20 years, which is defense. You know, Baltimore hurt. Right. Baltimore he gets hurt.
You're 100% right.
Yeah. So that's when it becomes business and not personal. And I think right now the two is clashing, because they do love Lamar, but they don't want to give up all their business assets just for one player. Because like you, Tony, said, if he's not there, if he's injured, what do we do?
Exactly.
You know, and it's unfortunate because, you know, like I said, hopefully it all gets worked out, but I just don't think it's going to be the number that Lamar may want. But, you know, and it seemed like other teams are sticking to it because they don't want to give out that $230 million guaranteed contract, because they're looking at their quarterback saying, well, we're going to have to give the kid in Los Angeles $230. We're going to have to give the kid up in somewhere else, Detroit. Golf going to be asking for $230. So, you know, just because of that. So it's so much stuff behind it.
So Jason, all you're saying is he's not going to end up in Washington with the Commanders.
Yeah, he's not going to end up in Washington with the Commanders because you just paid Payne. You know, you still got that defense.
And you still got all the rest of the defense, Sweat. And then if you're going to pick up the last year of Chase Young, they got a lot of key people to sign without paying that much money, where they won't be able to sign that. But Jason, I hope you'll come back and talk to us about the draft to see who was right between me, you, and Tony, because we picked all different people after we put together our mock draft. At the end, we're going to come back to see who can have the bragging rights. So this time I'll leave Tony, you're the last word of this to wrap this up.
Well,
good talk today.
Jace, thanks for coming on, and, you know, come on back.
Appreciate it.
You know, when you listen to me and Donna, just remember one thing. I may not be the best in the world, but I'm the best I've ever seen. And y'all come back and hear that too. We're glad to have y'all. We're going to be controversial. We're not going to just talk football. Jason going to mess around and be part of the crew. Hey, man, thanks for coming back. Donna, great job. But I want you to bring that sheet of paper the next time.
I want you to stop talking about
I said everybody else went against. where everybody went for Philadelphia. And I told you guys, Kansas
Here
City.
we go, Jason, again. Here we
And
go.
who gonna win the March Madness?
Hey,
now
that's
that one-
who I'm. Okay, before we leave, you know what? I'm big basketball, but I like as far as I like the underdog teams. I like as far as you had George Mason's coach that took that team as far as he's gone. I kind of like the swagger. I like Texas. I like San Diego State. I really do like them.
Yes,
but I like Miami. So those are my two people that I'm rooting for.
Defense wins championships.
Who do you like, Jason?
San Diego State defense wins championships,
Exactly. I like
but
San Diego
offense
State
sells
underdog.
tickets. And right now, Miami is selling tickets on offense. But San Diego State, I like Miami and San Diego State in the championship.
Me too. That's what I want because
okay,
my
so we all on the
busted
same page
everywhere
there.
else.
You must have wrote a note and gave it to Diamond during the break. Is that
I
what
know,
happened?
Tommy. Me and Jason are basketball people, even though he's football.
Right.
But really,
Don't be trying to ride it. You still got hay in your hair from getting on that bandwagon with
understand the
Philadelphia.
game, Tony. I didn't see you chiming in.
Okay. I tell you what, come on back, man, and we'll see who won. But the one thing, let's take a look at these quarterbacks. And Jace, we're gonna always bring you back for that expertise.
Oh, yeah.
So you hit some great points today. And Donna, I joke with you a lot, but you're on key as well. And I tell you, you look at this, who we want to be on key is Washington. We don't want that aberration and that mistake that they made last year with the quarterback to happen again.